in the air, and the smell is hypnotic with a strawberry switch blunt with a whole lot of chronic in a pocket, with a wallet, with a whole lot of nada. I be stressed, but it got me in an ethereal mode, with a serious soul in a cereal bowl. Like I'm searching for the sunflower, I'ma go on the road, but keep my mind open, infinite like the Konami code. Hip hop is my soul. Hope you looking when he's rapping, B-boy spinning to the beat like Mugen when he's scrapping. I'm jugging and I'm lapping on my way to Shangri-La, but some live, some die in the way of the samurai. Hear my battle cry, I might stay late and keep my fresh on a sideways 8. Yeah, I might make babes. All I need is some risotto and a cosplay chick that was born in Kyoto. Why? But that's a no-no if I ain't got that protection B. I keep my sword sheath, I don't need no BM stressing me. I wonder if there's a message G when I hear these new rappers. I ain't hating you rappers, but I prefer the boom bappers. It's the truth rappers, it's the war of the words, and I'm standing on top the castle representing the third. I guess you ain't heard, I'm following my destiny, following the god of fools, father to the death of me. A cross on my chest and resolve in my heart. Ain't shit you can do to bring a stop to this march, bring a stop to this art. You must be JK, and I grab the mic and get loud like an AK spraying, and I stay laying this heat over beats. I got the resolve of a beast, so girl put your knees over these shoulders right here, they holding up the world already. Mujushin style stabbings got your girl all sweaty. Yeah, you mad bro, my bad, I'm in my zone. Miyamoto Musashi with the microphone. The best squad in the city is watching my back. I might hit you with the two-piece like Mataza the Zap. I'm just talking that crap, I'm a peaceful warrior. And my flow Mega Man, I'll defeat and absorb ya while I'm hungover off gin and soda. I'm a fucking hero, dog, man, I beat Genova. Word to Jehovah, right hand on the rhyme. The way I'm rapping these lines so you can examine my mind. Take a step inside, don't be afraid. I'll let the beat lead me while I lead the way. And I seen today as I read the sermon that all I can tell you's only death is certain, but the way of the samurai is found in death. You might hear a lot of deep shit, but mine sounds the best. Yes, yeah. This one, baby. KV Anime on the beat. Hood Hemingway.
What up, man? Listen, home by popular demand, Pnoid's now selling merch. Man, look here, all right? We got 3 designs. We got the Pnoid Gorilla regular avatar. We have the Red Dead Redemption. And on top of that, man, listen, we got motherfucking Angry Gorilla, all right? We got t-shirts. We have onesies for your baby. Take your baby and turn it into a baby gorilla. On top of that, we got pillows. Come cuddle up with the gorilla. And on top of that, we got cell phones and mugs. Cop you some merch right now.
All right, Tom P, we are live.
What up, and welcome to motherfucking Pnoid Live, man. Listen, we got a hell of a show lined up today. We got an extremely special guest. And on top of that, as always with me, I got my partner, my muse, the motherfucking only YouTuber with bedazzled kneecap, my bottom bitch, Exel. What the hell's going on with you, my brother?
Man, nobody gives a shit about me. Go on and introduce our guest.
All right. With us tonight is Turd Flinging Monkey, man. I'm going to tell you what, the dude who legitimately I owe my growth to. What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
I'm better than I deserve. How are you?
Ah, man, listen, yo, these allergies this year, they are whooping my ass. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Actually, here's what you get. All right, they're called Chlorotabs. They sell them at Walmart. They're pretty cheap.
Right.
Get those.
Get those, and they'll help you out.
Yeah, they're like Walmart brand. I don't know what the name brand's called, but the Walmart generic brand is called Chlorotabs.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stop and get some of those, man. Because I'm gonna tell you what, this has been me and Excel both, man. We've been like down for like 3 weeks now. It's terrible. But shit,
Yeah, my shit's more sinus related with the sinus pressure changes. It's a fucking pain in the ass.
Oh man, it's been terrible. But anyway, yeah, we were talking about something before we started the stream. We were talking about YouTube's been over here messing with everybody's the algorithm and stuff, and now everybody's views are down, the subs are down. And I mean, and then all of a sudden they come out and Alphabet says that they're down $70 billion in market cap, and they're blaming YouTube. And I was standing here going like, well, of course, you know what I'm saying? Like the people, the product that they're offering, they're trying to hide it from everybody. Like people aren't getting notifications. It's messed up.
Well, okay, so basically the good rule of thumb about business is if you're getting a product for free, you aren't the customer, you're the product. So none of us pay for YouTube. We are not the customer. We are the product. The customer are the advertisers. So YouTube is trying to bring people in and to sell them ads. Now, it was a good business model, but then they decided that they were going to... And honestly, it's not really YouTube's fault. Every time there's a Wall Street Journal article about PewDiePie, there's an adpocalypse or some bullshit, the advertisers freak out, start pulling their ads. Now, the advertisers are the customers. So YouTube has to... They have to do what the customers want. The customer's always right. So when the advertisers start pulling their ads and freaking out, YouTube has to overreact, and that's where the adpocalypse comes from. It's YouTube overreacting to try to get the advertisers to come back. But unfortunately, the SJWs, they know that this is effective. They know that they are able to silence people with wrongthink, and so they've weaponized their Twitter mobs to attack the advertisers, to get YouTube in trouble, to pressure YouTube to get rid of people on the right. And it's actually worked. Like it worked with Alex Jones and everything like that. So unfortunately, just like a spoiled child, when you give into their tantrums, they throw more tantrums. So now basically YouTube has reaped what they've sown. What they should have done at the very beginning is did what TV stations used to do back in the day. I mean, if you're a 90s kid, you'll get this. Remember you used to watch TV and sometimes late at night, there'd be a little prompt. It would say, the following presentation does not represent the views or opinions of this station, advertisers, blah, blah, blah. Viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, usually it was like some paid 3-hour-long infomercial.
Right. Or it was something somewhat graphic, for network TV.
Oh, yeah, I remember that too.
Right. And so, yeah. So what that did was that basically told people, calm your tits. Don't attack the station. Don't attack the advertisers because their ads ran on this TV show just because it was controversial. Hit that little button, go to another channel, and fuck off. But for some reason in the current year, if an ad runs on a video, that must mean that company endorsed it. They know it's bullshit. Basically, the left is just attacking YouTube, and unfortunately, because and this is where YouTube fucked up, because YouTube is run by leftists, they thought that these were their guys. So they thought that they could manage the crazy left because they believe in the left. Like people at Google are giant leftists themselves. So they wouldn't stand up against the left, and now they're losing millions of dollars. Because here's the thing about leftists, in case you didn't know, and I could speak from experience. All you dipshit Silicon Valley, moguls who vote for the Democrats, the left wants to eat you. They hate rich people. They hate capitalism. They hate businesses, especially big businesses. They can't wait to eat you. It doesn't matter how much you donate to the Democrats. It doesn't matter how much money you give to charity. It doesn't matter. The left hates you and wants to eat you. The fact that you give to them and the fact you support them baffles me. It's like people, they put their, I know what it is. They put the emotion, because they believe in the cause of the left. Equality and all that other bullshit. So they rather do what they feel is right, even though they're screwing themselves and their business in the long term, just to soothe their emotional need to feel like they're a good person, instead of just, because if YouTube had if all of social media, if they weren't run out of Silicon Valley, if social media was run out of some kind of red state, and they told the left to go fuck themselves, everything would have been fine. This is why you don't negotiate with terrorists and why you don't give in to children's tantrums. Because the second you give into a tantrum, you get more tantrums. The second you pay one ransom, Like if a terrorist kidnaps someone and they want $1 million, if you pay them $1 million, they're going to kidnap someone else, and they're going to keep kidnapping people and keep asking for $1 million. So what you do is the first time they kidnap someone, you bomb them, and yeah, the hostage is dead, but they're not going to kidnap anyone. When they know that kidnapping people just results in them dying, they stop kidnapping people. But when kidnapping people results in them getting paid millions of dollars, they're going to keep kidnapping people. So you never negotiate with terrorists, you don't give in to tantrums, and you don't listen to these bullshit Twitter mobs attacking the advertisers need to tell them to go fuck themselves. And there are positive examples of companies telling the Twitter mobs to go fuck themselves, and everything was fine.
Well, also, on the reverse side of that, are there any examples of kowtowing that led to the company getting more money or appreciate? I don't think it's ever happened. I think it's always get woke, go broke.
No, there are some cases like Nike, and the reason why is Nike is Nike makes most of their money selling shoes, like overpriced shoes to black people, especially their limited edition, whatever. So your target demographic are dyed in the wool leftists. It's okay to get woke. In fact, getting woke might help you because that's your target demographic. The key isn't necessarily get woke, go broke. It's you need to know who your market is. Now, if your market is general audiences, you don't want to get woke. But if your market is the far left, then get as woke as you want. You'll probably help your brand. So it helped Nike because Nike is primarily bought by black people who obviously vote for Democrats, so they don't give a shit.
So there's one.
Like it didn't work for Star Wars, Marvel. Marvel's making a lot of money, but actually I watched a video. What's funny is, this is what I heard for Endgame. This isn't spoilers or anything, but they shot a lot of scenes with Captain Marvel and without Captain Marvel. And what they did is they shot the scenes two ways, and they were going to wait to see how Captain Marvel did. And depending on how Captain Marvel did and how people responded to Captain Marvel, that was going to determine what the final cut of the movie was. So if you're wondering why Captain Marvel was featured so prominently on the posters and why they hyped her up so big, and then at the end she was barely in the movie, that's why. It's because the movie didn't do very well and audiences didn't like her. So they went with the cut where Captain Marvel was barely in the movie. But had audiences liked her, and had she resonated with fans, then the cut of Endgame would have been completely different and featured a lot more Captain Marvel. So but here's the thing, Disney, in order to do that, they had to think of the money they wasted.
Yeah,
shooting scenes twice with different actors doing the same thing in different roles. So it's still costing them money. And Star Wars, what a dumpster fire Star Wars has become. The problem is they can't fire Kathleen Kennedy until after Episode 9. Well, yeah, it is dead. And they can't fire Kathleen Kennedy until after Episode 9 because no one wants to take control of this shit sandwich until it's done, so they can just throw it into the dumpster. Now, if they're smart, here's what they'll do. They'll simply pretend that, like they're doing with the new Ghostbusters. So they're bringing back not Sam Raimi or not the guy who played Egon. He's dead, so they can't bring him back. But they're bringing back the other guys. They're actually going to do an actual Ghostbusters 3, and they're going to just pretend
and the black guy that nobody remembers the actor's name.
And they're just going to pretend that the all-female Ghostbusters didn't even happen. Like down the memory hole it goes. It didn't even happen. I don't know what you're talking about. So if they're smart, the only way to save Star Wars is to just pretend that the Kathleen Kennedy trilogy never even happened. Just down the memory hole it goes, it didn't even happen. Now, the problem is because Carrie Fisher's dead and the actors are old, and Chewbacca just died. I just heard that the actor who played Chewbacca died. Not that he added too much to the character. He wouldn't be that hard to replace. But Carrie Fisher is obviously irreplaceable. But if you remember, when she did her roles, her voice sounded like shit. And she was like a fat coke fiend before she died. So, I mean, she wasn't long for this world. So here's what they need to do. The new trilogy, and they're going to have to do a new trilogy. It's going to have to be in CG. Kind of like a DreamWorks movie. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like the Clone Wars, but with a higher budget.
Yeah, I was going to say the Clone Wars and Rebels, for being kids CG movies, they weren't bad.
Well, they need
a better budget.
If we can pivot back to the whole ideology of these companies standing here getting woke on a regular basis, I've come up with a hypothesis of my own. I think it's the echo chambers of California and the Hamptons. Because every rich person in the United States, short of Warren Buffett, And I mean, they all live in like one of two places. Either they live in Southern California or they live in the Hamptons or New York City, right? Like those are the two places where they really live. And like, because every time I get into it with somebody here online, like I got into it the other day and I broke Twitter and I mean, had all this crazy nonsense happen. I caused like 2 different streams and people stood here and accused me of all this reckless nonsense because I was like, look, I'm not a big fan of the state and in here being part of your family, like being involved with your family, coming in and like, I mean, negotiating how you should be able to deal with your children, your wife, and whatever the case might be.
Oh, the government doesn't negotiate; they dictate.
No, yeah, exactly. That's why I don't like them because all they have is one tool. You know, what I mean, and if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a fucking nail. And Californians are all right with this on both sides of the argument. Like, it doesn't matter which side it is, whether it's the right or the left, bad cucks, or whether they're fucking SJWs. Right?
No, they're not
really. Go ahead.
They're not real. Okay, so you know what the Overton window is, right? Or do I have to explain that?
Yeah.
All right. So California has been flooded with so many Mexicans that it's dragged the Overton window to the far left. This is basically the story of American politics. The right isn't reproducing, and even though the left is reproducing less, like they have more abortions, they have smaller families, but they have the luxury of flooding America with all the immigrants that will vote for them. So the left basically has an endless spigot of leftist voters. The right has no one. They aren't reproducing, and there's no countries they can draw from that would vote for them that aren't also having the same demographic problems. Every right-leaning conservative country or any country that has Western European values, they're also dying out because they empowered their women too. They're all dying. There's no country that the right can draw from for voters. So the left, they can draw from all over the world. Every third world country will vote for the left because they want the Gibbs. So the right has no one. So every generation, the left gains more power because they're a larger share of the voter base. So what happens is, if the right-wing party, the Republican Party, if they want to stay relevant, if they want to win an election, they have to move to the left. And when the right moves to the left, then the left has permission to move even further to the left. So if you watch old speeches by like JFK, he sounds like a Republican, and he was like an icon of the left in like the 60s.
You don't even have to go that far back.
Yeah.
Why not? Well, Donald Trump used to be a Democrat. That's like, and he's literally Hitler. So, but it's only going to get worse. This is
the left is very.
Oh, go ahead.
The rich people, right? Instead of standing here and actually giving money to charities and helping individuals out, because like I was sitting here thinking, like, when's the last time any of these companies actually legitimately did something positive for the community in general? Like, they don't really do anything to help anyone out. What they really do is they stand here and they just virtue signal. And I mean, they put out these PSAs and these ads or whatever the case might be, and they go, look, we're good leftists. And that echo chamber in places like California, what?
No, these companies donate millions of dollars to charity, like every year.
Yeah,
They all, like, it's crazy. Now, here's the thing: they're not going to donate millions of dollars and then do a campaign to broadcast all the millions of dollars they're donating. But if you look up like any of these major companies, they're donating millions of dollars to different charities. I can't think of all these big companies do.
Yeah, well, a lot of them do, but one problem I have with a lot of the charities that they donate to is a lot of them are charities that 75, 80, maybe even 90% of the money is just spent on the charity itself.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of these organizations are who they're donating to, they've got like buddies that are on the board of the charity or whatever. I don't think it's as kosher as they like to make it sound.
Well, I mean, sure, but like that's. I mean, what do you want? The charities have overhead. They have organizations. If they're a large charity, people are going to have to manage the operations and everything, and they're not going to work for free. So, I mean, even religions which are tax exempt, they have to pay people to do all this stuff. They have
I understand that. What I was kind of getting at is I think there's like a revolving door when it comes to the charity game in a lot of these companies, but I'm sure plenty of the charities do good work.
Right.
That's kind of less to the point. Is regardless, these rich people, they still don't want to pay the taxes for the government that they want, which is something We actually, this is what we,
Fuck the government. Look. There's.
Well, no,
I'll
they're not paying the
trick.
taxes for the government they want.
Yeah, for the government that they're over here screaming like we
All
do.
right.
Yeah, this is referring
Let's
to
take-
your video.
Let's take a step back. The reason why millionaires and billionaires vote for the left is extremely easy to understand. Once you appreciate the fact that when you're that rich, you don't earn income. You make capital gains. Capital gains taxes cap out at about 15%. And the reason why is because of global competition. If you tried to raise capital gains taxes because of global competition, you basically drive foreign investment from America. So due to global competition, capital gains taxes are basically capped at 15%. That is retardedly low compared to income tax rates. So when you are a millionaire or billionaire and you make all of your income from capital gains, no one gives you a check. You don't earn a salary. Most of these CEOs, they make a salary of $1 and they don't care. They make all their money on capital gains. Now, the reason why that's significant is when you're that rich and all your money is made on capital gains, which is capped at 15%, and you don't pay income taxes, higher income taxes helps you. Because what it does is it bankrupts your competition. The small business owner that might, if you look at the history of the United States, back in the 1800s, you had Montgomery Ward and Sears, and then people who worked there started Walmart, and basically usually there's these small companies that rise up and take over the big companies because they do it better. But you don't want that to happen. So one of the best ways to make sure that you basically stay on top is to kick the ladder out from underneath your competition. So what do? More regulation? That doesn't affect you. You own this massive company. You could afford the regulation. Higher taxes? That doesn't affect you. You make all your money on capital gains. Yeah, raise the shit out of taxes on the rich. Because when you raise income taxes on the rich, you're not hurting the millionaires and billionaires. They don't earn income. You're hurting small business owners. You're hurting professionals like doctors and stuff like that who actually earn an income. They're the ones paying all the taxes. The millionaires and billionaires, they're paying 15%. Even Warren Buffett admitted that his secretary pays a higher tax rate than he does. And he cried to the government, oh, you need to raise my taxes. But he's lying through his teeth. It doesn't matter. You could raise the income tax to 100%. Warren Buffett will still pay only 15%. He doesn't earn a fucking salary. He makes all of his money on capital gains. So when you are that rich, when all your income is from capital gains, it benefits you to become a leftist. Because high taxes, more regulation, that keeps you on top, and it doesn't affect you negatively. In fact, and then if you donate to these politicians, they'll cut the guy who ran GE during the Obama administration. He was on Obama's economic advisory team, and he got a bunch of green energy subsidies, and then GE milked the shit out of those, and they paid no taxes. There was an entire year, GE, a massive company, because of all the subsidies for green energy production, paid no taxes for a year because of all the sweet shit that Obama was giving out to GE, who happened to be on his economic advisory team. So now, who do I blame for that? Is it the company's fault? No, it's the government. They create the incentives. I don't blame the companies. When high taxes benefit you, it's rational for you to favor high taxes. People ask, well, how come these leftist billionaires support the left? Why don't they support the right? Don't they want low taxes? Don't they want capitalism? No, capitalism only helps people who are upward. Capitalism helps people rise. But when you're already at the top, you don't want capitalism. Someone might overthrow you. Someone might rise above and challenge you. So no, people at the very tip top, the actual top 0.1%, they hate capitalism. Because what is capitalism? Capitalism is competition. And they don't want competition. They want to keep their little ivory tower, and they want to keep everything for themselves and their family and who they want. They want to be able to pick and choose who their successors are. They don't want the market to decide who's the next big companies are.
Yeah, the irony about that is that's a much similar to the economic aspects of fascism than anything.
Well, actually, fascism. I know there's a lot of misunderstandings about what fascism is. People just think it's Nazis.
I'm only looking at the economic, the whole idea of the union between state and the major corporations.
Yeah, so we actually do have fascist economics today. Nobody calls it fascism. They call it state capitalism. So what China has is technically fascist economics. China is an interesting case study because they were communist. In fact, they still have a communist party, but they've essentially abandoned communist economics because they realize it doesn't work. And they've only gone 1 degree over. And so now they're doing a mix of Keynesianism and fascist economics, which is the difference between communism and capitalism. So if communism is the government owns the means of production, and capitalism is the means of production are privately owned. Fascism or state capitalism is essentially when the means of production are privately owned, but the government basically can strong arm these private companies to do whatever they want. So
Correct.
even though they're privately run, but they're directed from the government. Like the owners of the company can't just pursue profits willy-nilly. The government will come in and order them to do stuff, but they'll leave it in the hands of the private owners to figure out how to do that. It's not like communism where Stalin would just put his cronies in charge and they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and then everyone was starving to death, or like literally every time there's communism. So it's like, is it better than communism? Sure, but it's still shitty. Like, if you want actually a rich society with freedom and, fat bellies, you want capitalism. But the problem is capitalism requires freedom. And if you're a megalomaniacal dictator and you want to control everybody for your little glorious vision, obviously freedom has to go, and thus capitalism has to go. And that's why everyone with this dream of how to, they hate competition, they hate freedom, because that gets in the way of imposing their vision on the world.
Yep.
Right. So, and this is what I'm saying about California. Like, California is full of these individuals who down here and espouse leftist propaganda, and it's almost like it's completely concentrated there and in New York and in Alexandria, Virginia, like, where individuals, that's like all they spout. And like every time you have a conversation with these individuals, it's like I'm speaking a foreign language to them completely. Like, because I believe in people and the freedom and the ability of individuals to stand here and do what they have to do to make money and not have the government get in the way and not have, all these regulations on top of people and not have individuals interfering with what you're doing with your family and what you're doing in your life.
You say that because that benefits. Look, politics is all self-interest. So right. If you are dependent on the government, whether you're disabled or just lazy, it is rational for you to favor a welfare state because that benefits you. If you are a middle-class person who's working hard and you're seeing all your money taken away in taxes, it is rational for you to vote for the right and try to shrink the size of government. And then, of course, if you're a multimillionaire or billionaire who benefits from higher taxes and regulation because it destroys your competition, that is rational for you to vote for the left as well. So you have basically
I want to say, I mean, okay, yeah, if you're poor or disabled, don't want to work, but yeah, if you're a lower class person that it can get government benefits, but you would like to have upward mobility, that it is still not rational. It's just short-sighted.
Well, but people will always, well, not always, but in large numbers, because here's the thing, like individuals, you can never predict what an individual will do, but you could always predict what large numbers of people will do. That's literally what economics is, because in large numbers, people are very easy to predict. You just play to the lowest common denominator. And people in general will always prioritize their immediate self-interest over their long-term self-interest. Without a second thought, every time, always bet on the stupidity and short-sightedness of people.
Well, yeah, of course, especially when we're giving them the option. Right. Even furthermore, our education system doesn't do anything to try to, educate them, sway them, teach them that, yeah, you might want to think about your long-term self-interest.
Well, why? Why would it?
Because it's the government.
It's run by the government. It's run by the government. All of the teachers are government employees. They overwhelmingly vote for the left, which is a party of welfare. So you really expect the teachers who are leftist government employees to educate people about economics?
Don't get me wrong. I absolutely do not expect it. I'm just pointing out that there's more to why people are acting this way.
Well, look, yeah, there's a lot of things working together. There's no easy solution because you cannot get rid of human nature. People will always seek out their self-interest. So the best way is to just get the government out of everything as much as possible and let the free market work. But the problem is that creates unequal outcomes. People will see, the rich have more than me. I need the government to fix things. And it becomes one thing and then another thing and another thing, and then the government's in charge of stuff, and then you have inefficiencies, bloated, taxes, lower standards of living, and it all goes to shit. There's no way around this because if you have too much freedom, people will worry about inequality, and if you have too little freedom, like basically the people who would normally be winners who are being taxed to shit, they get pissed off and they either fund a revolution or they just fuck off into another country, and your tax base disappears and your country collapses. But if you have too much freedom, the average person, the average, low IQ dipshit, they and they want the government to take care of them, and they start burning shit and everything like that. So you can't please everyone. So most of the time, especially when you have a democratic society with universal suffrage, you err on the side of pleasing the low IQ dipshits. And then we have this slow descent towards socialism and communism.
Yeah, I kind of get what that's inevitable. Democracy is the god that failed.
Well, you can have a democratic system that doesn't have universal suffrage.
Get you closer.
Right, but the problem is even if you have that, like the founding fathers originally, only landowners could vote. Women didn't vote, But then, of course, one generation, women voted, and you had universal suffrage. And then once you have universal suffrage, it's over. You can't ever reform the system. You can't take their voting rights away once they vote, because they won't let you. So a republic with limited franchise works until it doesn't. And it just takes one generation to fuck it up. And because all the people who did this to us, the people who gave women voting rights and created the welfare state, they're all dead. There's no one to blame. There's no one to point their finger at. Everyone involved is long dead. We're just here inheriting the bullshit that they created.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And I mean, as I said, I don't know, for me, I always look at it as different areas of the country have different ways of voting inside of the states. But for the most part, it's all it's been moving more and more and more towards leftism and feminism, and more towards, just making things worse and worse and worse than socialism every year. It just keeps getting worse.
Well, often, here's the thing. The politically popular answer is almost always the opposite of the economically correct answer. So there's a problem. The economically correct answer and the politically popular answer are usually polar opposites of each other. So if the politicians want to keep their job, they have to basically make the problem worse, because that's what the people want, because they don't know economics. So they're going to, the politically popular, for example, this is happening right now in, not Venezuela, Argentina. All right, they have inflation in Argentina. The reason why they have inflation is because they have a welfare state and they're printing too much money. That is what causes inflation. But they're blaming high food prices, and so they're putting price controls on food. Basic economics 101 will tell you, when you put price controls on food, when you're having basically inflation, you're going to cause food shortages. There's no way around this. You will cause food shortages, because you're basically going to tell the farmers, you cannot earn what this food is worth, and they will stop growing it, and then people are going to start starving. This is what happens every single time. Why are they in 2019, with all the historical examples of how price controls cause shortages, and when you put price controls on food, you cause starvation? Why would any country in 2019, with the internet and history and all the knowledge at their fingertips, why would they institute price controls? It's because it's the politically popular answer. People only know that food is too expensive. Now, if you told them, here's the economically correct answer. The reason why food is expensive is because we're printing too much money to pay for it. We're printing too much money to pay for the welfare programs. We're printing too much money to pay for government spending. So we need to either raise your taxes to pay for the spending, or we need to cut the spending. But people are stupid and they want it both ways. No, don't cut the spending. That hurts the poor. Oh, don't raise my taxes. That would make me poor. Just give me that for free. Don't pay. I don't want to pay for it. Just give me the Gibbs for free. But there is no such thing as a free lunch. So the only way to, if you're in a democratic government, and the average voter's an idiot who think they want the free Gibbs and they don't want to pay for it with taxes, the way to pay for it is with inflation. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but then when they complain about the inflation, then what do you do? So if you raise their taxes, they riot. If you cut spending, they riot. And then they complain about the inflation and riot. Well, yeah, there's literally no way to fix this problem because the people are stupid.
Yes, and the economic illiteracy, it's pervasive through our media now. Did you see that Snopes thing? I forgot what they were fact checking, but somebody said something about how, we can't afford all these programs by AOC. Our government has no way of paying for it. And the fact checker said, no, that's a false statement. We print our own money so we can pay for everything. And I'm like, what the?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
an
yeah.
actual fucking thing. And then I forgot what it was. It was like Tulsi
well,
Gabbard was talking about like how much we spend on military spending. And then I said, oh yeah, do you actually care about like the debt and inflation or whatever? It was just some fucking Twitter comment. And some of her fans and socialists came on and said, well, we don't have any issue with it because we print our own money. So it's like a completely different ball game. And I was like, what the fuck? This is actually something people think. They actually think it's a good thing that we are printing our way into a faux prosperity. Like, this is a house of cards. It's going to crumble.
Right. So, I mean, unfortunately, but here's the thing. Like, this is happening in South Africa right now. So the new government of South Africa is basically, I think I read an article, they're just going to print a bunch of money and give it away because they think that's going to make the people of South Africa rich if they just print money and give it to them. And what happened in Zimbabwe is going to happen in South Africa. It's going to happen like everywhere. This happens every time. It happened in Venezuela. This is what happens when stupid people get their way. Like, they don't understand how money works. They think printed money is free money. And look, again, you can't talk to these people. So what you do, and the thing is, and here's what the worst part is. The worst part is when the inflation hits, and then it's like you could track it. It's like a line graph. You have welfare state. Don't raise my taxes. Don't cut spending. Okay, so then they print money. Oh, inflation. Oh no, put in price controls because we can't afford food because of the inflation. So they put in price controls. Oh, where's all the food? We have food shortages. We're starving. And then everyone starts starving to death. Then these same people, because they're too stupid to know they caused this. They caused it by demanding the government give them all the gibs. They're the reason, they're their own reason they're starving. They will like cry humanitarian crisis. They'll even launch a revolution if they can. And then they'll do the exact same goddamn thing.
Yeah. Or they'll seek refuge in another country and try to do the exact same fucking thing to that country.
They'll immigrate to another country, and then they'll start promoting the same policies that ruined the country they fled from. Because there's a way I try to explain this. So when it comes to leftism in general, they don't care about the facts. They don't care about history. They don't care about what works. All they care about is doing the quote unquote right thing, which is what is in line with leftist ideology, which is progressivism, equality, and so forth. That's all they care about. So you could even be like the ghost of Christmas future. Bring them into the future and show the misery and death that their policies will cause, like with 100% certainty. Because I could show you graphs of historical examples, and you could just say, "Oh, that this time it'll be different." But if I brought you into the future,
that time wasn't real socialism, man.
That wasn't real. This time it'll work, guys. Now we're calling it universal basic income. It's totally different. But even if you brought them into the future and showed them what their policies would do and all the dead people and the starving people, they still wouldn't abandon their policies because they're the right thing to do. They don't care if millions of people die. They don't care if the society collapses. It was the right thing to do because all they care about is doing the right thing. They don't care about how many people die. Yeah. So you have to understand that these people...
dogmatic.
Well, yeah, because it's a religion. Progressivism is the official religion of Western civilization. So to these people, freedom is evil. And there is no argument to be had. They hate freedom. There is no facts. They're not ignorant of facts. They don't care about the facts. And they will kill or enslave you, or they will do actions which directly lead to your death if you let them. But because the right are a bunch of giant pussies, it's going to happen. It's going to keep happening because the right are a bunch of giant pussies.
Well, the right are comfortable. They're sitting there watching their televisions and their fucking burqa loungers and watching the fucking NFL every week and betting on their favorite sports teams. And that's really what it is. Everybody's way too goddamn comfortable. So they're not going to get up and fight for something new. They're not going to get up and fight for their freedom because, as long as they can still pay their bills and raise their kids and, go out and do all the nonsense that they do on the weekends, they don't really care.
That's when you're towards the end of the cycle, right? You're comfortable. You're getting everything you need. Government's printing away money, everything's good, and then when it collapses and you can't afford your cell phone bill anymore, that's when they riot, they overthrow everything, and try it all over again.
Oh, but it takes years. So here's the thing: the average person's a sheep. They literally won't do anything until the pain of inaction exceeds the pain of action. So only when they're starving to death, only when, like, they probably figure if we rise up against the government, we probably will die. But if we do nothing, we definitely will die. Like, we are starving to death. We've already eaten the zoo animals. We've already eaten our garbage. It's like literally Mad Max out there. If we don't overthrow this government and fix shit, we are going to die. Only at that point will they rise up. Only when they face certain death, if they do nothing, will they actually do something. But it takes years, and by the time they are even ready to do that, it's so far past the point of no return. The time to do something was a decade ago. So basically, at that point, the best thing to do, honestly, is not to let them leave the country. Like this whole like refugee thing. What that does is that's a release valve on fixing the shit.
Absolutely.
'Cause you let all the women and children out of the country, and then everyone flees the country, and it turns into Haiti. Because, like, there's a lot of people who are smart who have left Haiti. The people in Haiti are literally retarded. The average population in Haiti are fucking retarded. Like literally.
Brain drain is real.
So everyone who was, like, smart or wasn't a dipshit left Haiti. So now Haiti is a complete shithole with no hope because all the smart people left. So, but Haiti could have been a decent country, but because, everyone left and now all that's left are the dipshits who don't even know how to farm. They can't even farm. Yeah, that's how stupid they are. The very basics of civilization.
They just eat dirt cookies.
They make dirt cookies and they hold their hand out. Because that's literally it. That's all they can do. They're too stupid to farm. But it's not like it's there's no solution. Here's the thing. Here's the at the end of the day, here is the black pill, the red pill, whatever color pill you want to call it. Evolution, progress for a species requires the strong and the fit to reproduce and the weak and the unfit to die. And that is completely antithetical and 180 degrees from all of our concepts of welfare, compassion, and all this stuff. As long as we continue to compassionately pull the weak and the unfit out of their hole, we will always have to deal with them. Like, until we let them die. Like, you gotta be like Batman in Batman Begins. Like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you. And then he, like, opens up his wings and stuff. We need to have that attitude. It sounds heartless, but until we have that attitude, every generation we're gonna have to deal with these dipshits over and over again. We gotta keep giving them money to keep them from dying. Oh, no, you had a bunch of kids you can't feed? Well, here's more money. Here's more food. Oh, you had even more kids? Oh, you're flooding my country because you don't know how to take care of your shit. And you just keep throwing money at them. And the problem just keeps getting worse until you don't have to kill them. But for the love of God, stop helping them. Stop enabling them. Stop causing the species to regress. For the strong and the fit to live, the weak and the unfit must die. They don't have to be killed, but they must be allowed to die.
Yeah.
And if we just let the weak and the unfit die for just a generation, the human race would move so far forward. That's what's holding us back.
Well, not only that, but like, man, look, I'm in complete agreement with you. Like, I'm so tired of everybody going, we must have compassion for everybody all the time. Oh, we must protect everyone all the time. If one person hurts, then we all hurt. And I'm like, dude, you can't have that attitude in a country of 320 million fucking people.
Wait,
like,
what?
It doesn't fucking work.
What was it said when you went full blown Hitler on stream the other day, Pnoid? It was something like, you need to stop feeding those African children.
Yeah.
Let them all die.
So back in the day, before the food aid started, I think the average family in Africa had like 3 or 4 kids. And of course, they were starving with their little descented stomachs and the flies landing on their eyeballs and everything. It looked like pretty bad. Don't get me wrong.
And then that Sally bitch went on TV and said, donate money to save an African kid.
Right. So now, here's the thing. If they would have stopped fucking and having kids, like, the food aid would have provided for those same families of 3 and 4. So they have 3 or 4 kids, and they were starving, and so everyone gave them free food. But instead of just like, okay, we now have enough food to feed our family of 4, instead they had like 10 kids. So they went from so you were already starving, and then you got enough food to feed a family of 4, and then you had 10 kids. So now you're starving again, except now you have 10 mouths to feed instead of 4. And that is literally why right now Europe is being overrun with African Muslims, is because we literally paid them for an entire generation to reproduce. For an entire generation, we've been giving Africa money, and all they've been doing is shitting out kids. And they haven't like improved themselves. They just had more kids. The more money you gave them, they just it's like It's like fuel. They just convert food into babies, and now a generation later, they are flooding Europe with their children. The children we created by giving Africa all this food aid. And then,
it's like
originally
feeding the ducks, dude. It's like feeding the ducks on a fucking river, like feeding goddamn deer in the wild. Like eventually they're gonna it's
more like feeding the bears or feeding the killer bees,
feeding a stray cat.
But the thing is like originally they were supposed to be like Syrian. Remember the Syrian refugee thing? That was the argument. Oh, these people are fleeing a war. We need to take in these Syrian refugees. What the fuck is going on in Africa that we need to take in all these African refugees in Europe? Nothing. And now it's like, oh, it's because of global warming. That's why we need all these African refugees. It's total bullshit. There's no rhyme or reason.
There's actually no reason people in Africa should be starving, considering, outside of the Sahara Desert, most of the fucking country is like incredibly fertile ground.
Well, they can't farm. That's the problem.
Oh.
They don't know how to. Honestly, the best thing for them would have been colonization.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. All the countries in Africa that are remotely doing well are all the ones that were colonized by us evil Western settlers.
Right. And the thing is okay, so you look at South Africa. South Africa, when the settlers came, I think they came from, they were the Dutch. So they were. So when the Dutch settlers came to South Africa, it was depopulated. It wasn't like America. It wasn't like there was a war fought and the Dutch settlers defeated and killed the natives. The Zulus had already wiped them out. There was already a war, and the Zulus came in and wiped everyone out. So this was basically open land. Nobody was living there. The Dutch settlers came, turned it into a viable country. All the blacks were now saying that this land belongs to them. They had immigrated to South Africa from the north because there were jobs there. There was prosperity there. Because the Dutch settlers had built a country. But because the black population outnumbered the white settlers, in order to maintain control of their country that they built, they had apartheid. And then the Western governments wagged their finger and made them have a unity government. And then, of course, the black majority just destroyed everything. Now they're killing the farmers. And they're literally calling for mass printing of money to make everyone rich. And they are going to burn that entire country to the ground and turn it into just another African shithole. So, like, here's the thing. You have to have colonization. But then you basically you're still left with that thing. You have this mob of people saying, "Give me that," and you have to kill them. At the end of the day, you have to kill them. If you give in to them, you have South Africa, or you have Venezuela, or you have Argentina. You have to kill them. For the strong and the fit to live, the weak and the unfit must die. So you can do this slowly or quickly. But once they threaten violence, once they say, "Give me that, or I'm going to kill you," or "Give me that, or we're going to launch a revolution," or "Give me that, or we're going to riot," they have thrown the gauntlet. So kill them. That is how you deal with the problem. If you refuse to, you're basically signing the death warrant for your country.
I mean, yeah, which happened.
It happens over and over and over again. Since the advent of democracy, it's happened.
I mean, and the other half is you have all these leftist economic individuals running around screaming, oh, there isn't any inflation. We printed $20 trillion in the past 10 years through quantitative easing, and there isn't any inflation anywhere. Where's the inflation? And you stand here and you go, like, there is inflation, you know what I mean? Like, it's just popping up in places where the government doesn't have control and restrictions on
They must be on food stamps and haven't noticed a difference in their grocery bill.
Right, and also the cost of healthcare and education. But also, here's the other thing, too. During the quantitative easing, the government also massively increased how much money the banks were required to keep on hand. So before the 2008 housing collapse, banks only had to keep a fraction of their money on hand.
It was like
and then
1%,
the government,
it was really low.
Yeah. The government increased the amount of money they had to keep on hand, and then they printed a bunch of money. So that money never entered the economy. It basically went from the treasury to the vaults of the bank. But inflation only occurs when that money hits the economy. Because what causes inflation is too few dollars chasing too few goods. That's what causes inflation. It basically creates a bidding war. But if that money never reaches the economy, it doesn't cause inflation. So from 2008 to, I want to say, like, years later, there was relatively little inflation because the money wasn't entering the economy. It was going straight into the bank vaults. So, and then the left pisses me off because they're either lying or they're stupid. They point to shit that hasn't happened yet as proof that it won't happen and economics is wrong. Like the Nordic model. People are like, oh, well, Scandinavia is doing fine. I guess communism can work. Like, hey, Scandinavia isn't communism. The Nordic model, in fact, the Nordic model, a lot of Nordic countries are actually more economically free than the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though they have massive welfare programs. They're not anti-business. They have low corporate taxes. They don't have a lot of business regulation. They're pretty free market when it comes to companies and businesses and jobs. The way they pay for their massive entitlement and welfare programs is through high individual income tax rates. The actual poor people, the middle-class people, pay for their own shit. Unlike in America, we basically disguise the taxes through inflation and corporate taxes and everything. People actually pay sky-high income taxes in Scandinavian countries. Like in America, most people pay about 15 to 25%.
They also all have value-added taxes, which is just a sales tax.
Yeah, the taxes in Scandinavia are like 75%. We're talking like 4 to 5 times higher. Like the government takes all your money. And yeah, you have free healthcare and free college, but it's not free. You're paying for it. Now, I'm fine with that. Look, you don't have to have no government. There's 2 ways to solve this. You can pay for your government through voluntarily accepting high taxes. Say, I want my government to do X, Y, and Z, raise my taxes and pay for it. That is perfectly fine. Or you can say, I only want to pay this much in taxes. I want my government cut down so that I'm only paying this level. That would be honest. And so we have 2 completely viable solutions. But because we have universal suffrage and the average person's a fucking retard, they want free shit and don't raise my taxes. And also don't cut anything. And also don't cause inflation because food gets expensive. Just give me free shit and pay for it with unicorn farts. Otherwise, I'm going to riot and turn to crime. And unfortunately, you can't reason with them and they're going to riot. And so now I'm not saying kill poor people at all. But when they turn to crime, when they start rioting, when they start launching a revolution, get rid of them. Get the fuck rid of them. Like, they're not, you don't need them. They don't do shit. They don't contribute shit. All they're contributing is, they're no different than the mafia saying, give me money, otherwise I'm going to hurt you. That's what they're doing. Like, give me free money, give me welfare, otherwise I'm going to riot.
Or, I mean, what
are you going to contribute to society? Nothing.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I would much prefer, like, if we just got back down to the point where, like, each state was kind of its own goddamn country, and we let everybody deal with it on their fucking own.
I mean, that's another thing that's also worth mentioning about these Scandinavian countries is that they're much smaller than America. They're smaller than some states in America. I mean, it's you can have that model, especially whenever they were very they've opened their borders, but Denmark still has a very It's very hard to immigrate there, even in the EU, because they put a whole bunch of stipulations and how you have to pay so much just to get into the country. It's if you're keeping your population, you have a large working class base of hard workers that are willing to pay the taxes. That's easy to sustain in a country of 600,000 people. A country of 320 million people. How the fuck are you going to pull that off on a nationwide scale?
Well, you could. The problem isn't America's size. The problem is America's open borders. You could have a country of 300 million, 400 million. But you can't have a welfare state and open immigration where anyone can just become American. We basically have anchor babies, which is where people, like women who are pregnant, come to America to give birth in America because, according to the Supreme Court, in a very loose interpretation of a constitutional amendment designed to give freed slaves citizenship after the Civil War, they've determined that anybody who gives birth on American soil, their child is an American citizen. And so what happens is all these poor Asians and Hispanics sneak over the border, have a baby on American soil, their child is automatically an American, and then because of chain migration policy enacted in the 60s, they get front-of-the-line privileges for immigration. So not only are we taking care of the one child, we're also supporting their entire extended family. And all of them are just illiterate, poor, lower class people who just want to get into America for the welfare. And that's exactly what you're seeing with the Africans in Europe. Like, they're supposedly fleeing from some war, but they're only going to the countries that have the generous welfare states. They're not stopping in the countries that aren't giving them money. They're going to the welfare. So it's not rocket science, and it's not like Scandinavia, if you don't let the immigrants in who want welfare, if you say you have to have this much money and blah, 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 then yeah, you can have your little welfare state as long as you have taxes high and you're paying for it. But once you open up the border, once you allow once you become the clearinghouse of the poor for the third world, yeah, you're going to go bankrupt because everyone is coming to your country for the free money. Before the welfare state, the people came to America because they wanted to be American. They came for religious freedom, or they came because, like the potato famine in Ireland, they came because they were fleeing starvation, but they came to become American. They didn't just come for welfare.
Yeah, they wanted the freedom to pick themselves up by their bootstraps because it used to be the American way.
Or they just wanted to live in a country that had freedom, like the Pilgrims were fleeing religious persecution. So that's what America was founded on. But with the welfare state, now people come to America for the money. They don't care. They don't want to be American. This is why you go down to along counties along the Mexican border. Everybody's flying Mexican flags. People refuse to speak English, refuse to learn English because they don't want to be American. They're just here, and they're American citizens, but they hate America. They're Mexicans. They're proud Mexicans.
La raza.
They're just here for the welfare. But how do you get rid of the welfare when women voted for it? They'll never unvote for it. Basically, all of our problems come back to we have too many people who shouldn't be voting, and so we can't fix anything.
Yeah, and on top of that, here's the other half of that where we started talking about Scandinavian countries like this. It's only going to work, but for so long because eventually you're not going to have people having any kids anymore. Individuals just aren't having any so you don't have anybody to pay for the fucking welfare.
Yeah, now this is actually directly there was a UN report in the early 2000s where they literally said, because the native population of Europe isn't reproducing, we're going to have to import from Muslim countries. And the reason why is the Muslim countries, because they didn't empower their women, have a high fertility rate. I've done the research. This is my thing. I promise you, if you do the research, there's so much evidence.
I know about this from
the fact that people debate me and think I'm wrong. It baffles me. But the reason why Western countries can't immigrate, people say, oh, you don't have to pull from Africa or the Middle East. You can invite people from Europe or Australia or Russia. It's they're not having it. Nobody's having any kids. There is no white country that has a positive fertility rate. The only developed country that has a native above replacement fertility rate is Israel. Every other developed country has a below replacement fertility. In fact, the highest white native fertility rate was Ireland, and that was because abortion was illegal, which was now overturned. It was overturned last year. So even that, now it still was below replacement, but it was the highest native white fertility rate throughout all white countries. And it was because they didn't empower women. They didn't allow women to kill their babies. The more rights you take away from women, the higher your fertility rate. The more you empower women, the lower your fertility rate. This is you can debate me about this, but I promise you I'm right. I have all the facts on my side. I've done the research. So they need immigrants. They can't draw from European or Western or even developed countries. So all they're left with is Africa and the Middle East.
Real
That
quick.
is literally all there is.
Real quick, not that I want to interrupt, but we did get $5 to call Tom Pnoid and Uncle Tomahawk, saying South Africa is going the way of Rhodesia. Zimbabwe. That was from the Grabber.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's appreciated.
Yeah, and you know what? It isn't the first. It won't be the last.
No,
Yeah.
you're exactly right, and it's the worst part about it is even with them using this strategy, it's still a long shot, right? Because you're counting on them coming in and eventually becoming net taxpayers, right?
Well, yeah.
After so many generations, and
so here's what they're counting on. Now you see this in Hispanics. A lot of times, the first generation Mexican immigrants to America are basically poor. They clean hotel rooms. They work in Mexican restaurants. They don't speak English. They're all on welfare. But then their kids who are raised in American schools tend to, there's they go up a standard deviation. And by the third generation, they're no better or worse than the general population. So the idea is we need to import people from Africa and the Middle East because we literally have nowhere else to draw from. We either import them or we have to cut our welfare state, which is you can't, because the people will riot if you cut the welfare. So their whole plan, they're basically selling out the future of their country, and they know it. Basically, they're just trying to buy enough time for them to die, just like the boomers. They don't give a shit what happens to America. They know they spend all the money. They just want to have their retirement. They don't care if, Gen X's and millennials and Gen Z's, if all of us have to go fight a civil war or some shit, as long as the boomers get to die peacefully in their beds, living, after spending all the money, that's all they care about. And same thing with the people in Europe. They just want their welfare state to last until they're dead. So they are willing to destroy European history, replace it with Islam, roll the dice because they don't want their welfare cut. They want to live out the rest of their days and then fuck the next generation.
Yeah, sadly, I think even that plan's going to fail. I'm pretty sure that the descendants of people from these very backward Islamic countries, they're not going to turn out like our second and third generation Americans are, especially when you're importing them in mass, not people that are voluntarily trying to go over there. You're
right, and here is what the people in Europe didn't get. So they use the Hispanic immigrants as the model. Because Hispanic immigrants who come to America, mostly from Mexico, they do assimilate after a couple generations, and they do rise into the working and middle class, usually during the second or third generation. Same thing with Asians. Here's the problem. Asians and Hispanics tend to be Christian or, secular, which is perfectly in line with Western culture. Muslims are completely different. They're not secular, neither they're Christian. In Islam, it's not just a religion, it's also a political system. So when the Muslims take over a community, they don't when you've seen these little Mexican communities.
Every time Muslims take over anything, the country becomes worse.
But you gotta understand. So if you go down to around the southern border, like places in Southern California or South Texas, you're going to see these little communities where everybody's essentially Mexican. Nobody speaks English. All the billboards are in Spanish, so on and so forth. But that's not the same as going into these Muslim no-go zones where they have literally paramilitary police patrols and, modesty police. They have their own little micro government operating, and the Mexicans didn't do that. The Italians don't do that. Yes. Only the Muslims do that. It's not.
I've seen the videos of men attacking women for displaying themselves.
And Providence and Baltimore and Miami and LA. We did do that. We did have basically paramilitary fucking organizations out here patrolling the streets and enforcing laws and trying to keep the police out of the neighborhood so they could operate.
Yeah, but they weren't doing it to impose values that were counter.
Right, but the thing is the Irish and the Italians and other immigrant groups that had Little Italy or Little Germantown or Chinatown, their culture was not fundamentally opposed to American culture. In fact, even in the Irish, in New York, they saw themselves as American. They loved America. They had their little community and they wanted to, keep the peace and keep other communities out of their. But they saw themselves as American. The Muslim immigrants don't see themselves as American or French or German or British. They are Muslim, and they can't wait to overthrow the government and impose Sharia law and make the country a Muslim country. And there
was two big differences though between when the Irish and Italians came in and when now that the Muslims and everybody else coming in. Well, when the Irish came in, we're talking the 1860s when the potato famine actually happened, and they basically got drafted into the Civil War and they earned their way in as that position. And then when the Italians came in, they were building, skylines and bridges and infrastructure and things of this nature. What are we doing now that we need all those workers?
Well, no, we don't need the workers. The thing is the only reason we need them is because of the welfare state. If we got rid of the welfare state, we would no longer need immigrants. The only reason we need immigrants is because the welfare state is a giant Ponzi scheme. So if you're not familiar with what a Ponzi scheme is, it's a scam where you have to pay old investors by bringing in new investors. So look it up. Or it's also known as a pyramid scheme.
Yeah,
that is literally how. That is how.
I get it.
That is how
the social. But I'm saying, what are they going to do? There's no work for them to do. You're basically bringing in people to compete with a workforce that's already shrinking to begin with.
But they need workers. Here's the thing. It's basically they're trading a certainty for a probability. Most likely, These countries are basically going to have to cut their welfare state anyway because, the jobs are going away and there's no workers and so forth. If they do nothing, if they don't have immigration because of the low fertility rate throughout Europe and throughout the West, the welfare state's going to go bankrupt. That's a certainty. However,
you're going
if
to have
they
less
immigrate
people
a bunch
paying
of
into the Ponzi scheme than taking out.
and it's going to collapse.
That's how they all collapse.
That's all Ponzi schemes end. But so bringing in Muslims from the Middle East and Africa most likely is going to fail, but there's a chance it will succeed. And so basically they're basically saying if we do nothing, we will collapse. But if we bring in Muslims, maybe they'll assimilate. There's like a 1% chance they'll assimilate. So it's worth doing that simply because if we don't do that, we're definitely going to collapse. But again, they're selling out their entire country to try to keep the welfare state going until they're dead. The generation that's in charge, like the boomers, they don't give the slightest shit what happens to their country or their children or grandchildren once they're gone. They just want their retirement and fuck you.
Yeah, and so it's really, it makes it even more incredible is the right-wing populist groups that are rising in Europe. They're not sitting there up, coming in a right-wing American uprising where they want government to get out of our lives and cut spending. No, they just want to stop the immigration, but they want to keep all their welfare programs.
Yeah, it's because they're stupid.
Yeah, I know.
So
that's like the yellow vest. Like everybody's saying that the yellow vest is like a good thing, but like the truth of the matter is they're really just whining about Gibbs. Like that's really all that is.
Marine Le Pen's party, they were pro welfare, right? Like their economic policy was incredibly left wing by all standards in America. They just wanted to cut off immigration.
There is no both sides. Like basically, the Overton window is so far to the left in Europe. Everybody's a socialist. There is no true conservative, limited government people in Europe. You basically have communism versus. You basically have democratic socialism versus outright communism. Those are the parties you have. But as far as the Yellow Vest riots or protests, what those were fought over, those were caused by the inability of France to print money because they're on the euro. Because they're part of the EU, they can't just print money. So when you can't print money, when you can't cause inflation to pay for stuff, you have to raise taxes or cut spending. And because the people were stupid, they wanted the government to do all this fucking global warming bullshit. And so because they couldn't cut spending, they had to raise their taxes. Then they started rioting because their taxes raised. That's all it was. It was basically, oh yeah, we want government to give us shit for global warming. Oh, but don't raise my taxes. But because they can't print the money, they're rioting. This is why people who say we need to get rid of the Fed and go back on the gold standard. That would cause riots because the people they want all the Gibbs and they don't want their taxes raised. So if you can't print the money to pay for it, they're going to riot. So look, and I'm fine. I'm fine with letting them riot and shooting them. But are you okay letting them riot and shooting them?
I would deal.
I
would giggle. I would be giddy as a schoolgirl if we fucking shot all the rioters after cutting their Gibbs.
I'm out in the mountains. They're gonna starve eventually. They'll wear themselves out and go hungry. That's just
who's they?
How it works. The individuals who don't have any fucking food after, they don't have the ability to fucking.
Well, yeah, so if we scare them off because we shoot enough of them during the riot, then yeah, they're gonna go off.
But you have to have the stomach for that. You have to be willing to kill them. And remember all the Mexicans who were marching on the U.S. border? There's this caravan of Mexicans. I was like, carpet bomb them. They're basically saying we're coming to invade your country. Fucking just do a flyover, carpet bomb the whole fucking line of them, call it a day. But they're like, oh, we can't do that. Why? Oh, because the women and children. Look, and basically, as long as the gimme dats and the dindus with their women and children can basically use your sympathy, they will destroy everything until basically everyone is fucked or until you have the stomach to shoot them. That's the only way this ends. You either shoot them or they destroy everything and then everyone starves to death. They still die too. You're not saving them. You're basically just dying with them.
Yeah, I'm saying though, I legitimately think that they would just starve. Let them riot, let them burn shit the fuck down. Eventually,
well, sure, but right. So the problem is, let's say you just say, okay, we won't shoot them. We'll just let them burn the city down, and then then they're going to turn into like the Herd from The Walking Dead, and they're going to go from like the city to the suburbs, just burning and looting everything. So, like, is that better? Like, what is better? Just shoot them while they're riding. Don't let them destroy the world,
dude.
And then turn the fucking Walking Dead shit
there's
where they're going around.
Yeah, there's nothing illiberal about defending your property.
No, well, yeah, like, look, self-defense is not like threatening. I'm not threatening violence. I'm threatening self-defense. You're like, oh, report. He's threatening. No, threatening self-defense. There you go. Self-defense is not.
If you come into if you try to smash the windows out of my business, I'm gonna chase you out with a fucking weapon. It's gonna be a gun.
I'm not gonna chase you out. I'm gonna go fucking.
The bullet's gonna chase you out.
I'm going for the high score.
Yeah. You come to my house, it is what it is. Like, as I said, I don't think like legit. I think the problem will be solved rather quickly in a country full of 500 million fucking weapons. Legitimately.
Yeah, but so at the end of the day, they're going to get shot. So, like, saying, we shouldn't just, kill them while they're riding. Let's let them ride and then let private citizens shoot them instead. But you're basically, it's almost like, I don't know, you're basically choosing, it ends the same way, except you're allowing them to just be more destructive than they honestly have to be. You could just nip it in the bud. Just kill them when they're rioting. Kill them. The whole idea of letting people riot is absurd. I understand why these mayors because that's their base. Usually the people who live in the city tend to be the lower income dipshits who are the rioters. The people who are complaining about the riots tend to be the people who go into the city to work, but they don't actually live in the city. So when there's riots going on, only the people living in the city affect the mayoral outcome election. So if you stand against the people living in the city, i.e. the rioters, you're actually going to lose your job. So this is where the governor needs to come in and basically take power away from the mayor, because the mayor is going to let them riot. So the governor needs to come in with the National Guard or with whatever, the state guard, and shoot the rioters. And when the mayor fucking waves their finger, just tell them to shut the fuck up. Shoot the rioters. Yeah. The world will be a better place.
Yeah, the chat's talking about it, but Portland's basically an example of this kind of shit already happening, right?
It's not just Portland. It's literally every major city.
Well, yeah, I was just saying it's happening every day in Portland. There's just fucking chaos in the streets with protesters and rioters, and the mayor's just like, leave them be. Just let them do whatever they want. They stay in the street.
Again,
they can beat on cars and traffic. We're just going to let it go.
Yeah, because only the people who live in the city can vote for the mayor. So his or her constituents are the rioters.
Yep.
So that's the thing. So the governor needs to come in and be like, all right, we're in charge here. And then when the mayor's like, oh, yeah, you know what? You go in front of a TV and you wag your finger while I shoot your constituents because we're going to solve this problem today. But again, you have to have the stomach for that. Do you have the stomach to shoot thousands of people when they riot? If you don't, then you're going to sit around on your hands while the country burns. And you could tell yourself whatever you want, but those are your options. You can either watch them burn the country down or you can shoot them.
Yeah, it's shitty that those are your options. Were you a Ron Paul fan back in 2008?
I voted. I tried voting third party. Here's the unfortunate reality: we have a two-party system.
Well, no, in 2008 he was running for the Republican primary, right? So
I don't remember, honestly.
Well, anyway, the only reason I was bringing it up is he got up and he was basically explaining some of these things, right? He was like, he even talked about immigration. He's like, in the absence of a welfare state, we wouldn't even have to talk about this, but because we have one. And then he was like, well, we can't pull the rug out from under people, but we got to start being honest with people, and we got to stop this. We got to turn it around. He was called fucking crazy and a kook. Like, nobody wants to hear that. You can't level with people. So the end result is going to be one of the outcomes you're talking about.
But the whole idea of, we can't pull the rug out, but we have to have a conversation. No, look, no generation wants to be the one to take the cut.
Yep. So,
look at the boomers. When the boomers were our age, they bitched about Social Security and Medicare, and the silent generation or the greatest, whatever fucking generation was collecting welfare. They were like, oh, you can't touch it. Third rail of politics. Give me your money. Now that they're collecting the money, now they don't want anyone to touch their money because they figure somebody fed on my paycheck for 40 years. Now I'm going to feed on your paycheck. So no generation will allow themselves to be the generation holding the back. So we could have a conversation. No one cares. Basically, the only option is we're going to keep spending money we don't have until we hit the wall at full speed. Only when we don't even have the option. When the option is taken away, basically when the government either runs out of money and collapses, or there's a civil war or something, when political, activism accounts for nothing, only then will the welfare state go away. And it won't go away slowly. There won't be slow reforms. It will go away like that. Just like someone living off of credit cards.
I don't think it's ever happened, right? I don't think it's ever been a government that went through a period of shrinking itself.
Well, not a democratic government. If you have like an oligarchy or some type of limited franchise,
yeah, of course.
But once you have universal suffrage, it's impossible because the average person's a fucking idiot. So it is impossible to reform a democratic system once we have universal suffrage. But so we're going to hit the wall full speed. The welfare state will end in a day, and there will be riots, and there will be guns, and there will be bodies in the street. And frankly, I don't even care. I don't even fucking care.
So I got a question for you, right? Because I've been listening to you for about a year and some change now at this point, right? And you always bring up getting up the fertility rate. And with the advent of automation and all these type of things, do we really need more people?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. So I've gotten arguments with people who say that we don't need to have all these kids. Populations have gone down. Like for example, hundreds of years ago there was like a really big dip in population, and there was nothing happened. The population went down and then it went back up, and everything was fine. The problem is during those periods there were plagues, or there were like the Mongols murdering people left and right. That's why the population tanked. Because there were Mongols or there was black plagues killing everyone. So the status quo is more or less maintained. If there was a plague, and actually, I have some hope. There's this fungal infection that is like super lethal. It kills like 50% of the people that get infected, primarily the very young and the very old. So if the fungus among us takes out the boomers, we might actually save America for another generation or two. But assuming...
I mean, because here's my mentality, right? So
okay,
we've gone from like 1.1 billion, 1.3 billion, somewhere right around there in like 1870 to 7.2 billion at this point here in the past 100 years. Do you really have that type of spike without a decline on the backside?
Yeah, it doesn't. There's this whole like, oh, we need to go down. No, we don't. We've developed like just-in-time shipping, and we have this whole infrastructure. we can support a population this size. But here's the thing: the world population is going up, even though fertility rates are going down. If the West isn't reproducing, other countries are reproducing. So the future belongs to those who have babies. If you're like, oh, we don't need all these people. Okay, that's fine. So you're basically saying my society doesn't need to survive. I want to be conquered by Islam. Yay, Islam. That's what will happen. This idea,
if we stop feeding them, we'll be all right. Like if we stop feeding the fucking Africans, stop.
Right, that's part of the problem. But the Muslim countries have a higher fertility rate anyway because they don't give their women rights.
Yeah, but if we keep them all in there, they'll kill each other. Or if we give them cars.
There's like 3 or 4 of them that are negative population.
No, God, please stop. You're embarrassing yourselves. All right, you have the Amish. The Amish are white Christians. They account there's 1,000 new Amish born every year. Over 40% of the births in Pennsylvania are the Amish. They are but they're pacifists, so you can't count on the Amish to defend you against the Muslims. They're going to get slaughtered. But the point is, when you have a society that's patriarchal, they will outbreed the secular, feminist, egalitarian society every time. The food aid just basically poured gasoline on it. But even without the food aid, the Muslim populations will outbreed the West. And they're being invited in. They don't even need to raise an army. This isn't even like back in the days of the Ottoman Empire where you had to start a military and conquer. They're being invited in to replace you. So the thing about do we really need to have a high fertility rate? Yes, because you have to at least maintain the status quo. If you don't want to be conquered or replaced by a patriarchal Islamic country, you have to basically match them. And right now, the patriarchal Muslims are having a lot more kids in the West. So if you want the West to survive, the West has to have babies. It doesn't matter what you think about, like, oh, well, we don't need all these people. Like, just again, it's not about like whether humanity will be fine once the West is destroyed and once everybody's praying to Mecca, and once we enter a new Islamic dark age, humanity will endure. There'll be human beings on Earth, but the West will be gone forever. They'll probably burn the libraries and lose everything forever, and like they'll have to slowly rebuild and rediscover, like the Renaissance. Now, if that's what you want, fine. So it's not about humanity. Like, humanity's extinction isn't probably going to happen, but the West's extinction, Western civilization, European extinction definitely is going to happen because they're not having any kids. So humans are going to be fine, but your society is going to die unless you get your fertility rate back up. You will be replaced. And unlike in the past, you will invite your replacement into your borders to replace you. And there might, look, right now in France, in 100 years, there will still be a country called France. There will still be a line on a map. There will still be cities called Paris, but they won't be France. The people of France will be gone forever. Just like, there's other like populations, like a lot of South American countries. There's no Aztecs anymore. Their pyramids are there. Their ruins are still there. But the Aztecs are gone. They were bred out of existence. And in the same way, the French will be gone in 100 years. They will be bred out of existence. Now, if you're fine with that, fine. But if you're not fine with that, then you need to take your women's rights away and you need to get your fertility rate up. Otherwise, you will be replaced.
Right. I mean, because like legitimately, like I know the UAE, Egypt, Qatar, and Syria, and there's one other one that I do believe are actually below. Iran, are actually below.
Some are. Yeah, some are, and it's because they let their women go to school. That is the biggest thing. Allowing women to go to school and have careers, that is the number one and number two way to kill your fertility rate. It's not the shit like you talk to trad cucks. They're like, oh, it's because of no-fault divorce. It's because of abortion. It's because of porn and anime. We got to ban all the sex dolls. That'll get our fertility. No, it's because women go to school and have jobs. But they're like, oh, but I think women should go to school because I'm a cuck. You want to fuck my wife?
I mean, like I agree for the reasons and whatnot, but I'm saying like I think the Middle East is soon going to work itself out as liberalism spreads through it. And
liberalism cannot beat Islam. I'm sorry.
I have bad news for you. Okay, right now, the only thing keeping a lot of these governments from being overthrown is the United States. Like the Saudi Arabians, they desperately want to overthrow their government. Same thing in the UAE. But basically, anytime like what happened to the Shah of Iran in the 70s, they want to do that all over. But they know that if they do, the U.S. is going to do their whole war on terror thing and kill them. Like they saw what happened to ISIS, they saw what happened to Al Qaeda. They're basically lying low. And the best part is time is on their side. All they need to do is wait for the United States to run out of money, which is going to happen in the next couple decades, and then it's game on. So you're like, oh, well, all these countries in the Middle East have a low fertility rate. Yeah, because they're basically trying to become secular Western countries. Once the United States is gone, out of the way, you're going to see, I promise, you remember the Green Revolution? Where, it's going to be like that, except it's going to be fundamentalist Muslim uprisings and revolutions all over the Middle East. And basically, these countries want to form a new, like, Ottoman Empire. But America is keeping them from doing that. Once America's gone, once Europe is basically replaced with Islam anyway, Europe is fucked. And once America doesn't have the money to be the world's police, you're going to see a massive revolution all throughout the Middle East, and you're going to see a unification into a new empire, and they're going to start conquering everyone.
I mean, it's in
except now they have nukes.
It's literally
now they have nukes because of Pakistan.
It's literally in their playbook, right? You can read it. The religious text.
The Muslim Brotherhood, which was started in Egypt, and was actually where the people from Al Qaeda got their start. Like the Al Qaeda came from the Muslim Brotherhood, and ISIS came from Al Qaeda. And so people are like, oh, we defeated Al Qaeda, we defeated ISIS. They're going to come back. They're going to change their name and come back. It's the same fucking people. You have the Muslim Brotherhood, Al Qaeda, ISIS, whatever the fuck they call themselves now. It's the same goddamn thing. And time is on their side because they're having kids. The future belongs to those who have kids. They're having the kids. Every generation they become bigger, and every generation we become smaller.
Well, yeah, they've openly said it's part of their strategy to just bleed us dry.
So yeah, these people who think
They
that,
want
like,
us. They want us over there, killing them, because over time we're gonna run out of money.
well, and also we're inviting them into our countries,
no,
thinking
we're just
like
inviting them
this.
in.
This is how retarded it is. Fucking Canada was inviting known ISIS fighters back into Canada to be like, basically they were Canadian citizens. They left to go fight for ISIS, and then they were let back into Canada. Like, that is fucking retarded as shit. These are terrorists, and you're letting them back in, and it's
Dude, there
like,
was that woman
look,
that tried to do it in America, and the American lefties were giving her sympathy.
oh yeah, look, this is the West is. Here's the thing. I know, like, everyone wants like a more politically viable solution, but there isn't one. You like the course we're on ends with the West collapsing and being taken over by Islam, and that's what happened. If we do nothing, if we basically maintain the status quo, that's how this ends. The only way to stop this, and actually, the reason why I talk about take women's rights away is because it's the most humane. It is the least violent solution. Because women aren't going to rise up in arms and defend their vote. They don't give a shit. So if men just rose up and said, you know what, we're this is it, we're done. We gave you a chance for 100 years. Fuck you. You can't vote anymore. All this feminist shit is gone. Have a nice day. They're not going to do shit. They have no ability to enforce their own will against men. And that would solve the problems overnight, and then the West would thrive and survive.
I mean, the other options basically turn the Middle East into glass.
Which we could do.
Well, no, no, but here's the thing. Okay, I mean,
It's not politically viable. It's more violent, right?
Yeah.
No, it would literally result in human, because you know how mutually assured destruction works.
Yeah, of course, because Pakistan has nukes now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you. It's not just you bomb me, I bomb you. It's you bomb me, I bomb everyone. Everyone bombs everyone as soon as we launch a nuke. That's mutually assured destruction. So we can't just bomb the Middle East into a parking lot, because we would literally cause a human extinction event with a thermonuclear holocaust.
I mean, at least the terrorist wouldn't win.
Right. It would be like, it's like committing suicide, so you don't die of cancer.
We'll call it a draw.
Right. I mean, the cancer cells are your body. It's just basically it's a mutated cell. So when you kill yourself, you do kill the cancer. So technically, it's a draw.
It sounds terrible. Like, it's extremely black-pilled at the moment. Like,
No, it's black-pilled if you just kind of resign yourself to the inevitable fate. I don't believe in a fate that will happen no matter what we do. The fate will happen if we do nothing. We can fix the problem.
We can't. It's not going to happen.
No. But no, here's the thing. People, like, here's the thing. When I first started talking about this, I talked about this years ago. I was alone on this hill. And people are starting to talk about this. Like, I don't know how far this will go, but we have to try. Just like a morbidly obese person, you're like, hey, bro, if you don't lose weight, you're going to have a heart attack. He's probably not going to listen to you. You're going to tell him every time he comes in for a checkup, you need to lose weight, you're going to have a heart attack. He's not going to listen to you. Then let's say he has a mild heart attack. He doesn't die, but maybe that mild heart attack scares the shit out of him, and then he starts listening to you, and he actually turns his life around.
That's what does
so
it.
What if France and Sweden are our mild heart attack? What if once a few countries collapse, once a few countries there's bodies in the street, maybe that's that mild heart attack the West needs. Because once we take women's rights away, we win. It's literally a one-step path to victory. And it's like, why would you, like, the alt-right wants to start like a race war and kick all the brown people out and kill all the Jews. Like, they have this whole like fucking 40 chess bullshit. If you just take women's rights away, you literally solve all the problems all at once. And unlike starting a race war, the women won't do anything about it. So why would you choose to fight a violent war against other men who are going to defend themselves, where you just tell women no and win?
Because men aren't gonna fucking dude. Like, I caused 2 streams the other day, legitimately, by saying that like, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be protecting women the way we are, and like, dudes lost their fucking minds.
Well, look, again, here's the thing. Again, we're talking about a morbidly obese person who hasn't had his heart attack yet. But it's still important to tell them this is going to happen. Pretty much, like, over time, once everything I've been warning you about starts happening, and I'm always right, eventually, like, you know what? I think this weird degenerate monkey with a sex doll wife who knows what the fuck he's talking about, maybe we should listen to him. Maybe he knows what's going on. But they're not ready to listen yet. But you still have to tell them so that when it does happen, maybe then, like, and maybe Sweden and France and Germany, maybe all these countries aren't enough. Maybe like, but eventually, when enough people die, they'll be like, you know what? Obviously, what we're doing isn't working. Now, this is what the alt-right is counting on. They're counting on people being desperate enough to turn to fascism. That's what they're counting on. So I'm basically offering them the actual right answer. Not, oh, hey, why don't we give fascism a chance, everyone? You know, I hear those Holocaust numbers are kind of inflated. It's like, shut up. No, that's not the fucking answer.
They're fucking stupid.
Well, they're not stupid. They understand that when people are desperate, they'll listen to people who they wouldn't normally listen to. So instead of letting the Nazis like control the alternative opinion, let's actually tell people the truth so that when they do become desperate enough to listen, they aren't only listening to the fucking Nazis. They'll actually listen to someone who knows what the fuck they're talking about and has the correct solution.
Yeah, okay, I guess what I'm going to say, their observations are correct. Their solutions are dumb. Right?
Right.
That's what's going to suck is because, well, I mean, that kind of feeds into your point, right? Because their observations are correct. Once it comes to fruition, then yes, people will be desperate enough to maybe listen to them.
Well, here's what's dumb. Their solution doesn't even address the problem. So their whole thing is, oh, white people are going extinct and Europe is being overrun. Okay, well, so look at Japan. They're nationalistic. They're xenophobic. They are ethnically homogenous. They are anti-immigrant. They are everything you claim to want, and they're dying because their fertility rate is dog shit. So that, like, even if you get your fondest wish, you didn't save the white race. Only one thing will save the white race, and that's patriarchy. And the beautiful thing is you can have patriarchy without the whole race war, kick the brown people out, all that shit. Just take women's rights away, and you win. And they're like, no, you're a Jew shill, and it's like, okay. So clearly you don't give a shit about actual like white genocide. You're just a Nazi, and you're basically using this to try to get people to take your ideology seriously, and that's disgusting.
Yeah, and I mean, most of the people watching here are fans of yours, and they know exactly what you mean by saying take women's rights away, and you're not even going to have that conversation. But it's not like we're sitting here saying, yeah, we're going to take women's rights away and lock them up in houses and have them be treated as slaves.
Here's the thing.
That's not where we're going.
You have to take their voting. Basically, here's the thing: before first wave feminism, before women had the voting rights, they weren't chattel. They weren't locked in puppy mill cages and raped against their will. They weren't physical slaves. So women had rights. They had, they were citizens. They had like human rights, but they couldn't vote. So I'm not talking about like, treating them like chattel, but all the things that feminism's given them, voting rights, affirmative action, the family court, that all that needs to fucking go. Just everything, every wave of feminism there was no good wave of feminism. They were all bad. All of them need to go. Now, once we take all those rights away, then we need to basically evaluate the fertility rate. So I think we need to at least have a fertility rate of 3.5 to 4. Now, if taking their voting rights away and getting rid of the family court and all that shit doesn't get our fertility rate up, then we need to they can't get rid of their education. Get them out of the workforce, get them out of education. Once they start having fucking babies, then we can start talking about like maybe letting them get like, I don't know, an elementary school education or something. We'll feed shit back to them based on the fertility rate we need. Once we get a sustainable population, once our population is big and thriving and we have enough to defend ourselves and maintain our society, I'm fine with lowering it to about 2.3. So look, maybe women, we could start giving them, a high school education then. Maybe we could let them work part-time jobs, but only when our fertility rate is stabilized. So I don't really know how much of their rights we need to take away. It's going to be contingent on when they start fucking making those babies. Once you start taking in sperm, putting out babies, getting the Western civilization back on track, then we'll talk about how much they can get educated and what jobs they can have. But right now, fuck it. I don't have any pity for this. Like, oh, but don't you think? No, I don't think. And, fuck you. You're displacing men. They're doing this in Africa right now. They're empowering women and they're displacing the men. And the men can't find jobs. And they're basically turning to crime. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, men have toxic masculinity. Like, idiot. Stop taking the men's jobs and giving it to the women. In fucking Africa, of all places, where, like, you work out in the sun. First of all, they can't do the jobs anyway. It's basically just a bunch of fucking welfare jobs. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
But yo, man, it's like 11 o'clock and I got to go to work.
All right.
And TFM, I want to thank you for being on, dude. As always, man. Yo, you be educating the shit out of me on a regular basis, and I want to thank you for that. You know what I mean? Legitimately. Right.
All hail the spinning robot pussy.
Yo, all hail the spinning robot pussy. All hail the white trash no state. All hail the Trebu state. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. You know what I'm saying? And I want to thank TFM for being on. Thank you, Exel, for running things. Man, look, it's Tom Pease with Pnoid News. Y'all know the deal, man. Tune in next week. Tune in Sunday for the Church of Jesus Christ, not a bitch made nigga. I will holler at y'all later. Exel, hit that button, my